All right, welcome folks to Gordium, where we generate, evaluate, and execute on startup ideas. So today we'll be breaking down this problem, which is that diagnosing Wi-Fi speed and quality is really opaque. This is coming from someone who's like pretty technical at this point. And so like I know a couple of things, like if you're on a Mac, you can hit Option and then you can see all these numbers. And I had someone explain these numbers to me, and this is the only metric I have for Wi-Fi quality, other than those speed tests, which I haven't found super useful either. So I guess the solutions I know of right now are like you can do a speed test, which doesn't capture everything, or you can use the like option key plus let's click on Wi-Fi hack for Mac. And so basically what this says, like what you want is you want a big difference. You want RSSI to be as close to 0 as possible and noise to be as high as possible. And then the difference between the two to be very high. So like a really good Wi-Fi would be like an RSSI of like 40 and a noise of like 100 or 110 or something. As you can tell, my Wi-Fi kind of sucks in this area of the home. And this is where it's like hard to puzzle things out because, for example, like my upload and download speeds are very good, but there's something about the quality of the Wi-Fi in this area of the apartment that's not good. And I can't figure out what it is. I can't figure out like, so I keep my computer in kind of a wooden box to isolate it. And I don't know if that is what's causing the quality or if it generally is just bad. So one solution I found was this app called NetSpot, and it like shows you like a heat map of Wi-Fi, but I think it's like $50 to pay for. It's just kind of a bummer to just like all I want to know is what the heck's going on. So yeah, that's the quick rundown.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, a couple problems.
Yeah.
Like it's opaque. Um, like the terminology is kind of opaque. Right.
Yeah.
So even if you do have the numbers, it's like, what does this even mean? So yeah, something even as I think of those tech comics you showed a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think that'd be very, interesting for something like this. It's like, boom, here's a comic that explains what these numbers mean, and you're like, oh, that actually added something to my day.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, it makes me want to look
Yeah.
up comic and see. Yeah, user manuals are boring, but yeah, here we go. Wizard
Yep.
zines. I'm gonna go ahead and make a card for that because we keep referencing
Yeah. No, that's
these.
I think an interesting thing.
Wizard zines, I guess. That's a great idea. That would be really interesting to know more about that in a visual way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or even just the topic, there's certain things where it's like it'd be nice to have, a bite size, I can
Yeah.
read this in 30 seconds and it actually improves my life a decent amount, or a 2-minute YouTube video or something. So I think that's one problem. And then another is that Wi-Fi is a dynamic problem. You might be the only one using internet, and then someone else comes online, like use on your Wi-Fi. It might be you open up your phone, or someone else starts watching a YouTube video, and how does that ripple out?
Yeah, it's like
Um,
polycausal. It's like the number of people on the network. Um,
mhm.
It's so I've read a little bit about this. It's building materials. So I don't know what my building's made of. Are the walls concrete? Like,
Yep.
because that's going to kill my signal. Is that why? Because if that's why, then what I really need is like a repeater versus an extend. And then you get all these fixes, and it's like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between a Wi-Fi booster and an extender? Like, why like what? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
and
And
then
then
it's also annoying because it's hard to actually know what you need, like in terms of Wi-Fi, because there's no unbiased person.
what I was just gonna say, like all the resources have slants. Like, right when I went to look up Wi-Fi boosters, that's how I found this NetSpot app. Like because they had published a blog about it, and of course they recommend the most expensive freaking Netgear Wi-Fi
Yep.
booster, and it's like, oh my god, because they have an affiliate link with Netgear. It's like, sweet lord, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then like your ISPs, I remember Jimmy and I lived in Colorado, and
Oh,
I was setting
oh
up the
yeah,
Wi-Fi for us, and I went with just the cheapest one, I believe, and they're like, this is not going to be good enough for streaming. And it was a little bit like, well, we got like, we're college students, we can, we need to cheap it out. And it ended up being, faster than the Wi-Fi at my parents' house. And it's like, that's just fine for streaming. And
exactly,
so
yeah.
there's no one who just tells it to you straight.
No, and I think a similar problem is cell phone coverage. And I know someone who made a really great explainer video, like a 2-minute explainer video, and it explained cell towers because he made this point that bars doesn't tell you anything about the quality of the signal. It tells you about how
Mhm.
close you are to the tower, which I didn't know. And
Yeah.
so, like in Los Angeles, I get a lot of bars, but the signal is shared with a lot of people. It's really the number of people
Mhm.
hitting that tower plus your distance that's important. So in Los
Mhm.
Angeles, you can end up having worse signal with full bars than I did in Indiana with 3 bars. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll track that video down at some point. Okay, do we have any connections here? I feel like there's a lot of opaqueness. Like it feels like search engines and machine learning being opaque.
Mhm.
They're both similar problems in that you have huge monopolistic entities that dominate the space.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess a question I have is, do internet providers save money if you don't fully utilize your Wi-Fi? Is it like a water bill? Because it's a fixed rate.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's, is it like water where, it costs them per megabyte, or is it like a road where, the cost is the infrastructure, not the yeah.
Yeah, is there a marginal cost to? I've never thought about that. That's kind of strange. Um, I want to see if there's any others related to Wi-Fi. Oh yeah, Wi-Fi speed is meaningless. This is an interesting one. I kind of want to. What does that mean? Oh yeah, I get. Is this? I guess that must have been a really early on one. Like,
Yeah. Huh.
what does 200 versus like 500 mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Wi-Fi in rural areas is, oh, there's a lot of problems with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, definitely.
Jeez. But I think those are that kind of wraps the ones that are most connected to this one.
Mhm.
Oh, this one's an oldie. We gotta update with speed to test. All right. So I think, all right, I think I have my ratings if you do.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you,
For motivation, I give a 0.
I'm gonna give it a 2. I'm really pissed off about this because we pay a decent amount. Like theoretically, our Wi-Fi is excellent, but in practice, it's trash, and it bugs me.
Speed to test, I give a 0.
I'm gonna push back on that though. I'm gonna give it a 2 because we could do a bite-sized article or YouTube video.
Yes. I guess it depends, what we do. If
Mm-hmm.
it's, doing an explainer, that's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these more dynamic options, yeah,
They're more
could
challenging.
could be very challenging.
Yeah. Impact.
I give it a 1.
I agree. So what does this end up as? This is a
Product. Well,
track.
yeah, which
Which
is would be a
a
canvas. I don't know what
crowdsourcing.
a
Crowdsourced, right?
yeah.
I think we've changed that. All right. Well, we'll throw that one out for y'all to consider at a later date. And with that, that's all we have. Thank you.